The Caligula Effect's visuals was something that immediately caught my attention when it was initially announced as a Vita game a few years ago, so when the much more polished Overdose version was announced, I was glad this game with a lot of potential could get another chance. In this new version, it's easy to forget about the original with its all-new smooth battle system, intriguing cast, and story routes, all fitting together to create an enjoyable, darker take on high school dungeon crawlers that had me creating satisfying combo chains as I busted through its dungeons while I played, and then totally addicted to its soundtrack when I wasn't. Full of students with dark pasts, interesting combat, and multiple story routes, the Caligula Effect Overdose's twisted high school world was a satisfying return to games that balance social elements with RPG ones. And with plenty of new features to fill its world, Overdose really shines in its new version. The Caligula Effect is set in the twisted world of Mobius, a perfect world designed to be free of pain and suffering made by a sentient, Vocaloid-style idol named Mew. The protagonist is sucked into this world somehow and is one of the few people who can see that something is amiss, able to see the people who have become digiheads that are dependent on Mew, and the fake people that fill out parts of its world. The protagonist realizes this and tries to escape, but is confronted by Mew, who displays kindness and offers to make the world better before she flees from the other vocal program Aria, leaving Mew's enraged fans behind. As the protagonist and Aria run away from the digiheads, they meet the Go Home Club member Shogo and then discover the power of Catharsis Effect that will help them fight and survive in the world, and with that, they join up with Shogo and join the Go Home Club to try and escape from Mobius's high school loop. The game gets straight into things as its first dungeon is quickly revealed, with each dungeon being based around the Ostinato musicians, the group that works with Mew to try and keep people in Mobius, with each of their dungeons featuring plenty of story development and a song that reflects their personality. The Ostinato musician songs have the power to enrage digiheads, so it's up to the Go Home Club to go through these dungeons to find the musician, subdue them, and also try to get information on how to leave the world. These dungeon areas full of twists and turns usually feature events and special tasks to add variety, such as finding something hiding on the map or solving riddles, with the latter being my favorite the couple of times this was done, as they often posed interesting psychological questions that both suited the Caligula Effect's theme, but also showed insight into how the other characters would answer too, as a nice bit of subtle plot development. These tasks that lead to story development are on top of the typical running through dungeons and doing battles, and with how smooth it is to start battles while sprinting through these environments, striking an enemy, and then unleashing a satisfying series of combos, each area and battle felt enjoyable thanks to its combat system. Overdose's take on turn-based combat puts an emphasis on planning in a unique way. With every action you choose, you're shown the potential outcome of it immediately, allowing you to adjust your timing with its music-inspired timeline that lets you move the exact point your attack strikes. I was a little worried at first that this way of always showing you how your move would play out would make battles really slow and too easy, but it quickly became one of my favorite parts of the system, as it encourages you to get really good at using its variety of characters by seeing how you can link them together perfectly. Each character performs a different way in battle, with some better for attacking enemies in the air, and others better at kicking them while they're down, and with the precision you can achieve by taking advantage of those things to happen at the perfect moment and in sync with each other to achieve the maximum combo. With the right party, you can make some really great combat chains that feel great when all goes to plan. There is a probability percentage based on your level that determines if the predicted turn will go 100% right to keep in mind, but it was incredibly satisfying when it did, and by the endgame harder boss battles, it felt really enjoyable to pump out well-timed special attacks and shields, and these were some highlights of my experience with its gameplay that made the system feel well worth learning. Aside from battling, as you run through dungeons, not every NPC is digihead to fight, as some of them are fellow people stuck in Mobius. And in the Caligula Effect, you can interact with pretty much everyone, with 500 student NPCs you can talk to in the school that all have their own side quests that allow you to gain stat boosts from them, and even fight with you if you interact with them enough. Since there's such an extreme amount of NPCs to use social mechanics with, their conversations aren't the kind of deep ones you'd expect from the main cast, but they are interesting enough if if you just find them randomly like I did as I was going through dungeons, with many of them having small struggles and complexes that lead to side quests, providing a bunch of replayability for anyone who wants to do them all. My encounters with these other students weren't the main focus of my playthrough since they were a lot locked to start with, which is shown on the big causality link chart that shows who you need to make friends with to unlock more people to talk to, which makes talking to everyone on the field have some kind of benefit even if you do it on the side like I did. I don't know if I would personally have the motivation to go through all 500 students to get their equipable stats, but I can appreciate how having this amount of students adds something to the world, with its sweet little moments of characters happy to see you again being a nice touch to make this world feel a little more lived in as I went through its story. While talking to 500 NPCs is an interesting concept, more interesting to me was interacting with its main cast, and with Overdose's new characters and the Forbidden Musician route, there are plenty of intriguing characters to get to know on a deeper level as well. A theme throughout Overdose's character interactions is trauma, and as you get to know characters in these optional interactions, you get to know their personalities and what these traumas are that all give you an idea of why they're in the idealistic world of Mobius in the first place. Since I tried to talk to everyone a little, I didn't get far into many, but their differing personalities have me all intrigued to want to come back and get to know almost all of them on a deeper level, since in the story's 30 hours, it saves a lot of the deeper character development for these events that definitely has me curious about these characters. Particularly cool is that with the new Ostinato musician route, you can not only get to know the other side of the main story while doing it, but you can also do the same kind of character episodes for the musicians too, adding double the amount of people to talk to. This I'm particularly interested in diving into, as these are the characters that have the kind of deep trauma that made them become Ostinato musicians in the first place that I'm sure will be interesting in some of their later events, but some I've already tried seeing me getting locked out of getting to know one of them, along with most of them acting generally suspicious in an intriguing way. Having access to both groups' events make this game feel very full story-wise, and with already plenty of replayability from the amount of NPCs in the world, having this amount of main characters to interact with as well make this Overdose version of Caligula feel like a game that could really keep me busy for a while. Aside from the character episodes, what impressed me most with the addition of the Ostinato musicians route and the new members in both clubs was how well characters slotted into story scenes, in that I didn't realize which characters were new until I looked them up. Even the way the Ostinato musician route is introduced in the story could very believably had been there in the first place if I hadn't known about it, and it really shows the care that was put into writing these new things in well, and I can't imagine the story without them. This Overdose version is also said to fix UI issues and to improve the combat system as well, and if I hadn't seen the original trailers of its original version, I would have just thought the Caligula Effect Overdose was a good game in its own right, but a lot has really been fixed up to make this more polished version. If you were like me and thought the original version of the Caligula Effect looked like it had an interesting story but its gameplay didn't look quite there, the additions and fixes in Overdose made me glad I waited, and with it being full of extra endings and much more story content in this version, I'm glad that these important changes will make it enjoyable to come back to as well. This Overdose version is also the Caligula Effect's first time on Switch, PS4, and PC, since the original was on PS Vita, and comparing what I played to its old trailers, it looks much better on these modern systems. I predominantly played its PS4 version, and was impressed with the sharp visuals and smooth movement in battles that made the experience look great on my TV, and didn't really notice any big frame rate drops at all. I was also able to check out the Switch version for comparison, and I'd say that while it still runs smoothly on Switch, I think I'm happy with my decision to play it on PS4, since I noticed the facial features on Switch lack some of the sharpness the PS4 version has, even in docked mode, and while things like character art and animation scenes still look pretty much the same, knowing the PS4 version looks that little bit better would probably bother me if I played it more on Switch. So if you're a console player like me and have the choice between the two, I recommend the PS4 version since it looks that little bit nicer, but if the Switch is all you have access to, it's certainly playable if you don't mind the slight difference. There's one final thing I want to mention about Overdose, and that's how much I loved its music and how it really enhanced the world. Aside from each story arc featuring a new dungeon area to run around in, they also feature songs that embody the personality of its musician. And on top of that, as you switch between exploring and battling, the music switches between versions of the song with or without vocals, the main entering battles and hearing the vocals come soaring in, always an exciting way to start things. The music overall gave each chapter and character some intrigue, as this is often the first introduction to each musician, as you usually don't meet them properly until the end of the dungeon. And while all the songs are in Japanese, the atmosphere they create serves this purpose well, and a lot of them are just cool Japanese pop and rock songs in general. I loved this soundtrack so much that I ended up buying all of its songs in the end, so I'd recommend at least checking out some of its trailers to hear its cool music, and with each dungeon focusing on these musician characters, I think they would definitely give in great tracks to represent their personalities well. The Caligula Effect Overdose is the kind of polished, unique JRPG I had hoped to see from its original trailers that embodies its style and ideas in the way that this interesting world deserves. The new characters and story routes make this world feel full of content, and with so many intriguing characters in its cast to still get to know post-game, I'm glad that its good script and interesting premise has left me with so much to play with. With this version's new characters and polish and things like its great battle system, it's easy to see the work that was put into perfecting this Overdose version, and with playing through it feeling smooth and full of great music and visuals in the PS4 version especially, I'd say a great job has been done to make the Caligula Effect Overdose worth playing. If you like good Japanese music and RPGs with unique social and turn-based mechanics, the Caligula Effect Overdose's trauma-filled world is an interesting place to get to know, and I'm glad to see the aesthetic I liked so much from its original trailers realized in this better quality version that is a great way for new fans like myself to discover its world. Thank you for watching this video. Let me know in the comments below if you've played the Caligula Effect Overdose, and if you have, what did you think of it? You can like and share this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to my channel for more JRPG content like this, and ring that bell to get notifications on whenever I post so you don't miss a thing. You can check out more videos here, and you can find me on social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all at JRPG Jungle. Links to those will be in the description below, along with links to where you can pick up the Caligula Effect Overdose. Until next time, thank you, bye!